Well, hello and welcome all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land to the Texas Special YouTube channel. And for this February 2025 O-Scale product review, we are going to take a look at this early modern era Lionel Amtrak O-27 train set. This set was cataloged in the early 90s. It comes with a FA, an Alco FA, obviously powered diesel locomotive. The new, I'm not even going to attempt that, Simra combination car. The Silver Dome, and the Lake Worth car. These are the traditional O-27 type cars. These are made from the same tooling as the ubiquitous Lionel O-27 Pullman cars. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this set will run on O-27 gauge track. If you find the set in the original box, it comes with a 40-watt transformer, 8 pieces of O-27 gauge straight track, which is, I believe, 8 3/4 inches in length per piece, and 8 O-27 gauge O-27 diameter curve track. Now, like I said, this set will run on O-27, but as you can see, we are running this on the TexLa O-Gauge Modular Railroad. This will be the first ever product review, O-Gauge product review, shot on this railroad. Alright, so starting with the locomotive features, the engine features operating magnetic knuckle couplers. Now you can see right, there's my pointer. You can see right here you have the thumbstack, I can't English today, y'all, thumbtack type little disc down here underneath the drawbar for if you used with a magnetic uncoupling section. Or you can manually uncouple the car with this little tab right here on the side of the coupler. Now the coupler on the rear of the locomotive is the exact same. This locomotive features transformer controlled forward, neutral, reverse in that sequence. The headlight and number boards on the side of the locomotive illuminate, and the cab has interior illumination as well. This locomotive does not have any sound features whatsoever. There are 4 contact rollers, 2 per truck, and there are 2 motors in the engine, 1 per truck. Zooming in on the side of the locomotive, starting with the cab, you have the cast-on little flag holder, which in the real world would have designated this, would have been used to designate an extra or a second or an extra, the first section of a train, or an additional section of a train. You have the cab door on the side is in the correct spot and cast on to the body of the locomotive with a cast-on door latch, as well as a cast-on ladder detailing here. The trucks are very minimalistic in nature with regard to the detailing, but all the important features are there. You can see some spring detailing. You can see the swing arm here. You can see the bearings, the journals, and the journal lids here. Moving farther along down the locomotive, you see the fuel tank, which is just a little tab on either side of the locomotive. There's actually not any kind of fuel tank on the engine with regard to what you would expect out of, say, a modern locomotive. This is basically the same tooling that K-Line used when they came out with their FA units. You have cast-on grill detailing all along the side of the locomotive. You have a large cast-on intake grill here, and you have the 3 little portholes. They are open. You have a secondary door here to the engine compartment with a cast-on ladder detail. And that is pretty much it for the detailing along the side of the locomotive. So we'll take a look at the top of the engine real quick. Looking along the top of the engine, you see some nice cast-on rivet detailing here. Along these body panels, you see a single chime air horn, the cast-on exhaust stack detailing, and a cast-on cooling fan grill, as well as some more cast-on rivet detailing and a cast-on grill here. Not really a whole lot going on with the top of this engine. This is not, as you can tell, this is not a highly detailed scale model. This is an O-27 type traditional toy train. This is a train set engine. Wasn't meant for your higher end collectors and modelers. Your picky, snooty guys like me that prefer the high-end scale stuff. But hey, it's still a fun little set to run. Looking at the business end of this beast, you can see the prototypically correct, albeit cast on and somewhat lacking in detail, grill detailing around the headlight, which Alco was infamous for with regard to their FAs and their FP type locomotives. You have the little eyebrow detail up top, which was, of course, a very prominent feature of Alco FAs and PA locomotives. You can see this pilot is basically just a big old empty, it's not even there. That is what allows the coupler to swing enough for the locomotive to navigate curvatures as tight as O-27. And I neglected to mention it, but there are crew figures inside the locomotive. You have the locomotive engineer and you have a fireman up here. On the back side of the engine, you can see cast-on diaphragm and door details. A little porthole there. You see the leaf springs that kept the diaphragms pushed together for a nice tight weatherproof seal, or weather resistant seal would probably be the most accurate terminology. You have I misspoke earlier in this product review. This is not an operating knuckle coupler. This is a solid plastic knuckle coupler. This does not work. So with the Railroad Hot, we're going to demonstrate the reverser sequence to you. This is a conventional locomotive, should go without saying, but I'll say it. So no command control on board. So we'll open the throttle on the transformer. You can see the engine is in neutral. Close the throttle and it goes backwards. Open the throttle again after we closed it, back in neutral. Open the throttle one more time and the engine takes off and forward. You can also leave the throttle at whatever desired voltage you want this thing to run at, and use the direction button on your transformer to operate the reverser unit on this thing. Alright, so with the locomotive off the track, we will take a look at the features that these cars have. Starting off with this new Semna, I don't know how to say that. I'm not even going to apologize for that. Baggage car. You can see the lettering and paint job is actually pretty darn good. You can see there are actually some little silhouettes here in the windows, and each window has some type of silhouetted detail on each one of these cars. The trucks are, as I said, the exact same as what you see on the O-27 type Pullman passenger cars that Lionel has made for years. Trying to throw some additional light on. There it is. So you can see the details better. You can see the bearing caps there, the springs, sway bar, brake piston there. So fairly good detailing, I guess, out of what, you know, a little bit better than what you could probably expect out of something in this price range. Also keep in mind this was early to mid 90s detailing, so by those standards, considering what it is, actually a fairly decent job on the detailing and the paint job. And there's not a whole lot of sloppiness. I haven't seen any bleed over or anything, any real fuzziness in the separation between the silver, red, white, and blue on the paint job on any of the equipment on this set. And it's actually a pretty decent job of the paint being evenly applied to include over the rivet detailing and around like the window frames on the car. Looking at the combination baggage lounge car, you see the door is cast onto the body of the car. It does not operate. It is the same on the other side of the car. You have this grille detail here, this air intake detail here. You have these nice curved side sills for the car, for the body of the car. You have these little hatches that are cast onto the car body. Loads of rivet detailing. It may or may not be prototypically accurate, but again, like I said, not a highly detailed, highly scaled model. You have a cast-on door here at the end of the car with cast-on grab irons. There is detailing to simulate a window on the end doors, but it is not actually there. If we apply power to the track, you will see the interior illumination on all these cars. Looking at the dining car, you notice the only real difference is it is sans a side door and plus the dome. The windows along the dome are the only windows on these cars that do not feature some kind of silhouette detailing. And looking at this boat tail observation car here on the end of the train, again, good detailing for what it is, the time frame it's from, and very nicely evenly applied paint. There's no thickness or thinness or runniness or bleed over or anything like that you would expect to find in your traditionally lower end model train sets. So looking at the underside of the car, you see there's not a whole lot of detail at all, which is fair. You're not going to spend a whole lot of time looking at the underside of a passenger car anyway when it's going around the track, especially if everything's going as it should. But for the purposes of a product review, I'm going to flip it over and we're going to take a look at the upskirt action there. You can see each one of these cars has one pickup roller per truck. You have a tank of some variety here. You have the back side of this hatch, which is like a storage compartment. You have frame detailing and extra supports here on either side to help kind of shore up the curved in side sills on the car. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you have the holes in the floor where the wires run up from the the electrical pickups, but that's it. And this is the same level of detailing that all three cars in this set have. On the rear of the observation car, you will see that there is a dummy coupler cast on to the rear of the car. You have a rear marker light, which does work. It doesn't shine red like the prototype would, but it does illuminate. You have a little guy standing here. Conductor is what it looks like. In the window, you have the Lionel L logo, an end platform, and of course copious rivet detailing. You also have two marker lights, one on either side of the car, that are cast onto the car body. Now in the real world, those would have displayed, again, those would have been marker lights and classification lights. They would have displayed whether it was the first section of a train, any additional sections of a train, or the last section of a train. Now you hear me say section. In railroad terminology, way back when, if they had to run more than one scheduled train, like say for instance 2 Sunset Limiteds or two 20th Century Limiteds, then they would run it in sections. Instead of throwing a ridiculous amount of cars on a train and making it super long, they would just run an additional second passenger train, or 2 or 3 or 4 additional sections. And they would run pretty much together, one right behind the other. The first section would display green marker lights. Any additional sections would display white marker lights, and the last section of a train would display the red marker lights, showing everyone, hey, there's no more 20th Century Limited. This is the last one. This is the last section of this day's 20th Century Limited that's running. Looking at the roof of the observation car, you can see a cast-on radio antenna detail, cast-on grill details, cast-on grab irons, another air intake type detail here, and a couple of hatches right here. But that's pretty much it. Other than that, basically just a smooth surface. On the opposite end of the observation car, you see some diaphragm detailing here, some rivet detailing, some cast-on grab irons, and of course the thumbtack style magnetically operated knuckle coupler. And if I scoot this over like such, you'll see just barely the side tab that allows you to manually open the coupler. Looking at the roof of the dome observation car, you will see the grab irons, vents or grill detailing here in that little grill detail right here, and obviously the dome dead center in the middle of the roof of the car. That's pretty much it. The combination car looks exactly like this minus the dome, so I'm not going to show that. The ends of each passenger car look identical to the square end of the observation car, so we're not going to look at that again. Alright then, with all the formalities out of the way, let's get to the fun part of this product review and send this guy around the track.